A capable person who keeps a low profile for too long is often perceived as someone with a mysterious identity and ulterior purposes. Alhaitham himself is a powerful rebuttal to all of these cliché views. He is a brilliant man, but he is only an ordinary employee of the academia, with a stable job and a cushy house in Sumeru, leading a carefully and comfortable life. Sometimes people find it next to impossible to catch the current scribe in his office. Little do they know about the scribe other than his name, Alhaitham, and that he is supposed to be present during work hours. The fact is, no one knows his whereabouts, and all they can do is leave documents and files on his desk. Alhaitham couldn't be more satisfied with how things are. The man might be at home or in the library, but he'll never appear where people wish him to be. Having an entirely unpredictable schedule affords undisturbed freedom. The title of a scribe may sound impressive to most academia students, but this fancy name is just a product of the academia's culture to use unnecessarily high-flown titles. In truth, the scribe does not have to be present at all major meetings, nor does he participate in core decision-making. The scribe is simply responsible for classifying and archiving important documents. However, in Sumeru, where books and manuscript documents were once managed as a resource, the scribe is one of the most in-the-know people in the entire academia. One can say that this position is rather similar to that of the Grand Conservator. After all, the person who manages texts will have the privileged access to profound wisdom. As the current scribe of the Sumeru Academia, Alhaitham acts in perfect compliance with his role. He does not attend any non-essential meetings, and when he is required to be present, he only records key points, dodging down other minute details based on his mood. If the meeting does not affect his personal interest or fails to pique his curiosity, he will not be bothered to give any comments. He does make comments, however, when someone has come up with something offensively foolish, and one should expect these comments to be more blunt than necessary. Such is Alhaitham's life's philosophy. Whenever the need for his judgment arises, one must be ready to accept any means and privileges he might require to make that judgment. Fortunately for everyone, Alhaitham knows that he is too lazy to possess too many ambitions. All scholars seek knowledge and the truth. Some do so for fame, while others for ambition, and some others enjoy conquering knowledge and the truth, transcending them and savoring the sense of superiority in the process. Alhaitham isn't any one of them. He is only driven by what intrigues him. He believes that many scholars have already become lost in their pursuits, taking the truth as a tool or even a shortcut to self-realization. However, whether one seeks it or not, the truth is always there, hanging high above in the sky like an illuminating star. It is not the end of the trip or the destination of a match. It is and shall remain constant, regardless of human existence. Also, human pursuits will not simply end after certain knowledge has been acquired. Though people never doubt that they can claim the fruit with joy and are prepared to sacrifice everything for it, their desire for knowledge will keep them going. Those who fail to see through the truth will set themselves on an endless path, while those with clear minds will say, the truth did not come into being to serve anyone, and whoever is unable to harness their desire for knowledge will be destroyed by it. Such is the rule of the nation of wisdom. Of course, if you want to blend in, you are welcome to fake such a posture. To the people of Sumeru, those who have played a part in the operation to save Lesser Lord Kusanali are deemed to be heroes. However, a great many who make such compliments don't really know the full story. They simply repeat a fragment of a tale that they find inspiring. As one of the protagonists in their stories, Alhaitham has no opinion whatsoever about being a hero, nor does he believe that these stories are worth talking about. Meanwhile, Alhaitham has declined the Academia's offer to become the Grand Sage multiple times, but given all the chaos in Sumeru, Alhaitham eventually agreed to serve as the acting Grand Sage temporarily. It already defied common logic for someone to refuse the titles of Sage and Grand Sage, yet Alhaitham went further still, resigning and returning to his humble role as the scribe at the agreed-upon time instead of clinging to power. If he did manage to gain anything from it at all, it was the financial benefits. His salary stayed the same after his resignation, not to mention the several high-quality research projects that he was able to complete on his own. There is doubt, then, that he will lead a well-off life. In addition, his interpersonal relationships have also improved, as he was more or less befriended the other participants in the Archon saving operation. They have gotten close to the point where Alhaitham might greet these people with a nod or two when he sees them. Sometimes, Lesser Lord Kusanali will also invite Alhaitham to the sanctuary of Sudasthana to discuss various matters. He has met great many people there, the General Mahamatra Saino, the mercenary Dehya, and Nilu, star of the Zubair Theater. Nilu even once asked him, "How did you manage to come up with such a bold plan? When I think back on it, we were all quite lucky to not get hurt." Nilu hesitated before she continued, and Alhaitham understood her confusion, for anyone would have wondered how he could have stayed unscathed despite being in the influence of the divine knowledge capsule. But, in Alhaitham's eyes, he was never in danger, or he had never used any capsules. As for how he managed to do that, it was all thanks to his role as the scribe. As a scholar lucky enough to have read the Akasha system manual, he had studied the headset and canned knowledge, such that he knew how to alter the status signal of the Akasha. He had even once thought of reversing the holographic shield of the Akasha terminal and projecting it to the back of his head to offer protection from attacks on that front. It has been proven that a plan lays the foundation for everything, and that prior research lays the foundation for a plan. Alhaitham, who had no interest in boasting about how he remained unscathed, answered Nilu's question with another. "As far as I know, Sino and Dehya were also curious about this, yet you are the only one who has raised this question. Were they just too shy to ask me themselves?" Alhaitham seldom discusses personalities or dispositions with others. He believes that the prevalent theories about them are wrong. Suppose someone insists that one's character has nothing to do with their abilities and opinions. The person with such a view will find themselves unable to judge any aspect of another person. A smart person will often hold different attitudes towards a foolish person and another smart person, and the foolish often think differently when facing success and failure. People's views on Alhaitham are proof of this point. Given his superb talents and egocentric personality, no one wants to get too close to him, but still, they see him as an outstanding scholar. This is exactly the public image Alhaitham desires. Many scholars are rigid and inflexible, but Alhaitham is not one of them. As a matter of fact, his occasional sarcasm in part reflects his philosophy. Society, or the collective, relies on rules to regulate individuals, and language is one of those regulative tools. Turning language against its original design serves to challenge unreasonable rules, and one can thus stay out of trouble. The word talented is abused within the academia, and so are born differently, touched by the Archon, and such. In Sumeru, one's talents are a trial. Outstanding talent is not necessarily seen as a perfect gift, but it also divides people. For instance, to compliment someone with unimaginable achievements, ordinary folk often call them genius, or superhuman, or a prodigy, but upon reflection, one will soon notice another layer of meaning that even the speakers themselves have not realized, that the talented and the ordinary are categorically different. If someone is capable of things others aren't, they must have been endowed with some special abilities and gifts. Excessive compliments for and wild imagination regarding outstanding people only serves to alienate them. They are successful because they are different. Such is the typical excuse favored by underachievers. Those ignorant notions mean nothing to Alhaitham. Though he does know his way around people, he will not waste his time on such trivial matters. Rules define borders and set limits, yet these rules should not be judged solely on the number of people they limit. Therefore, Alhaitham has come up with his own set of rules with which he perceives everything and challenges the world. It is the crystallization of his philosophy to maintain these rules of his own fashioning. Alhaitham acts on his own will and deals with anything that appears harmful in his eyes. Only with the objective judgment can one see the truth. By acknowledging the differences between individuals and recognizing differing levels of capabilities and mental capacities, one will discover the answer right away. Judgment from others is inconsequential, but to leave the right of judgment in others' hands is equal to denying oneself. To be different should not simply be a label given to you by others. Rather, the talented should have long understood that their uniqueness is also a gift. To put it another way, when a talented person truly understands that they are different and that they are indisputably ingenious, only then can they truly understand the value of their abilities. And as for cowards who remain blinded by perspectives advocated by the great majority, they have not yet found their true selves. To live a peaceful and comfortable life, one must meet a few requirements first: congruous personality and logic, adequate fighting prowess, a slow-paced job, and a cushy house in the vicinity of one's office. Alhaitham has checked all the boxes above. He would never deny that no place suits him better than a nation of wisdom, where social capital is linked to one's academic abilities. His current house, which is located near the academia, is one of the academic resources that he gained through promising research projects. This house's story dates back to Alhaitham's student years. His classmates, if they still remember them, they will recall that he was not one to mingle with the crowd. As a result, he has only participated in one joint research project. Despite its eventual success, the project resulted in a huge quarrel and a parting of ways. Little do people know about Alhaitham's part in this story, though they might be acquainted with the other protagonist, the Kishwadavad architect Kaveh. This academic incident was not very widely known, and in truth, a tale of two geniuses falling out due to differing perspectives is an all too familiar one in the academia. But even though their collaboration did fall through, neither of them will deny the other party's exceptional brilliance. As for their research, the academia would later transfer the relevant assets to the researchers involved as per regulation. Although the two did not continue that research, its great success in the early stage still serves as a compelling proof of Alhaitham's academic ability. Later, the academia even used this project, which they had forgotten to cancel, as a reference for allocating housing resources, and, as such, Alhaitham was given a very decent house befitting his participation in this ingenious project. But the other contributor, Kaveh, had never approached Alhaitham regarding that allocation. It wasn't until later that Kaveh had someone inform Alhaitham and the academia that he was not in want of a house and thus had no use of this property. Until they next met, Kaveh had gone bankrupt. According to Alhaitham, this former friend of his possesses a personality and values that are not congruous with his abilities. The two differ on too many things and cannot reach a consensus even today. Allowing Kaveh to stay in this house provides Alhaitham with an interesting research topic. Legally and socially speaking, since Kaveh has previously forfeited the right to his half of this house, he should pay the landlord during his stay. However, paying rent would, to some extent, deny his contribution to the research, which contradicts the academic spirit. An intriguing matter to consider, but Alhaitham has no interest in the answer. Thus, he has taken his broke former colleague in, collects rent as the rightful landlord, and gives his colleague some household chores. He is well aware of the dissatisfaction Kaveh might have, but it matters not to him. As far as Alhaitham is concerned, Kaveh is a familiar face, similarly lacks familial attachments, and is the polar opposite of him as a scholar. That is to say, an excellent mirror. Human vision is limited, but it can be perfected through the presence of another genius. Taking this opportunity, Alhaitham will be able to observe other aspects of this world, and thus understand more things that may otherwise have been unfathomable. The nation of wisdom places academics and knowledge above everything else. As such, a scholar acknowledged by others within the academia usually possesses a higher social status. Alhaitham was born to just such a family of well-received scholars. His parents died very early in an accident, and he was raised by his grandmother, a Kishvadavar scholar. Alhaitham doesn't have many recollections of his parents. He learned from his grandmother that they were both employed by the academia, with his father being a mentor in Haravatat and his mother a renowned scholar in Vahumana. Alhaitham has inherited his parents' intelligence, and he was always the sharp kid amongst his peers. So much so that he started reading abstruse academic journals around the age of 7. Having noticed his exceptional talents, Alhaitham's grandmother suggested that he attend school early. However, it only took half a day in academia for little Alhaitham to report back to his grandmother. Everyone he met there was boring, and he preferred reading alone to listening to their meaningless courses. Alhaitham's grandmother saw his parents' talents and personalities in him, and agreed to let him stay home to be self-taught. To Alhaitham, to be self-taught means to read, break down, reorganize, and question. Due to his family's background, he was lucky to be exposed to books made of paper. Interestingly enough, he takes more pleasure in reading his grandmother's hard copy collections than attaining knowledge from the Akasha directly. As opposed to the Akasha, books are inflexible and rigid. There is no guarantee that their contents are error-free either. To use such a medium of knowledge is to dance with potential misinformation. The majority of people in Sumedhu hate this, but Alhaitham derives great enjoyment from it. It was from reading that he acquired the ability to learn, analyze, and even rectify, and ultimately, he has learned to question. If the rustic and primitive method known as reading is ever any trouble, it is a trouble that Alhaitham appreciates. Alhaitham's grandmother told him, "You and your father both like reading. Now, I can't say if the two of you have been given too much to share of wisdom or not, but always remember that being different is a gift." Knowledge is to be recognized, pursued, and trusted, but one should never forget to question it. Perhaps only those who come to such an understanding will not be easily moved by the canned knowledge and other convenient knowledge media, and only someone who has already met these prerequisites could have casually read the Akasha manual sealed deep within the House of Diana. As Alhaitham's grandmother had said, books often contain useless information, sometimes in large amounts, but his sharp mind will sift through them, and if a book he has read lingers in his memory, it will come in handy one day. After his grandmother's passing, Alhaitham managed her funeral on his own, inheriting her properties and her small library. Before she passed away, Alhaitham's grandmother gave him his earnest blessing. "You are such a smart child. Many such people have large egos and propensity to act on their own. You are outstanding and possess a broader horizon than ordinary people. This is not a bad thing, but you must take care to have a clearer mind than others. You must understand that vain pursuits are but dust, and you must discern your path within the greatest of wisdom." Later, Alhaitham applied for the academia and was immediately admitted, scoring high marks on the Hadavatat entrance exam. He was informed that his grandmother had also applied for him to be able to attend classes in other darshans. Following his late grandmother's advice, Alhaitham always kept a low profile and a clear mind, and always makes decisions for himself. Years later, Alhaitham moved into his new house. He bought all those books over. While sorting through them, he flipped through a few that he had read a long ago. The journals had well wishes written on their title pages, and were from his mother's collections, and the ones with reference materials inserted between pages and notes on the margins had once belonged to his father. On top of them, there was a thick book with an exquisite emerald-colored cover. On the title page, his grandmother had written thus, "May my child Alhaitham live a peaceful life." A sturdy but durable green belt pouch. People often mistake it for a wide belt, but an impression perhaps reinforced by its color being in perfect harmony with Alhaitham's outfits. There are only a few things in his pouch: keys, some recent read of Alhaitham's, and a portable music player that goes with his headphones. Alhaitham personally made the music player when he first became the scribe, and it is connected to the headphones via the cables of the same color. He sometimes uses the gadget to play music, and other times to block noise. The value of language is not limited to words. A unified language helps to govern thoughts. Language is the bottom line: rules, weapons, and violence. By making our language unique, we can open up a special path to the relative completion of minds. Governing thoughts may appear meaningless to some, but to others it has a very significant meaning. Individuals' pursuit of uniqueness gives rise to various languages and media. People are controlled by language under many circumstances. As Alhaitham flipped through these pages, reaching the end of the book and its back cover, He realized that an intricate ornament had been underneath the tome this whole time. Of course, he knew what it was. A vision, the proof of one's power. However, this item did not mean much to him. A believer might have perceived this divine item to be a thing most lofty, but to him, it was no more than a useful tool. Alhaitham was out on a research trip when he was given the vision. He didn't plan to dwell too much on it. It belonged to him after all. So what difference would it make if he checked in on it tomorrow as opposed to today? And just like the knowledge he has acquired, what he has obtained shall always remain in his possession. And that is Alhaitham's full character story. If you're still listening in, thank you so much. He is a brilliant guy. And I will hopefully see all of you in version 3.8. Bye, friends.